Boots and cats and boots and cats and boots and cats and boots and cats. Yeah, I've been running into some issues with um, the algorithm kind of hiding us a little bit because we use intro music, and apparently sometimes it'll flag intro music as not able to be shared or broadcast. So it's not very fun at all. So I just have to improvise. But good day. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Home Education Foundation podcast, HEF podcast. We will start today the same way that we do normally. We'll give a special shout out to our top sponsor. Thank you to FPEA for being with us on this journey and becoming one of our top sponsors. And their convention is coming up in a couple of weeks. It feels like time is flying. Holy moly. We're deep in legislative session, and now we're whisked all over the place trying to hit all the conferences and conventions, and then the big conventions up here. And it just feels like every time we make plans, they get changed and something new happens. It's exciting, but it's a lot. So we're here for it. Well, we do have, however, today with us a special guest, and I'm not going to introduce them just yet. But hi, Brenda. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing good.
I wasn't sure if you were going to be with us today, but I'm glad that you are.
Yeah, I got some personal things going on that are pretty uh, interesting and
Sound
require a
concerned.
lot of attention. So
Yeah.
I'm certainly glad y'all are there to cover the bases.
Well, we're glad that you're here with us. So that's fantastic. There is going to be a special announcement for today, but do you have anything in particular, Brenda, that you want to start off talking about? Is there
I
anything?
don't today.
Okay.
I did want to say in relation to the FPEA conference, because this always bothered
Mhm.
me, and maybe it's on their website. I haven't had time to look, but it's very late in the process for signing up. And there are no rooms available at that hotel. However, in the past, they have arranged for transportation from a location off the campus of the hotel. And Jason, you might be able to fill that in better where you park and then there's a shuttle coming. But just let people know, even though it's late, it's not too late.
Yeah, it isn't too late. And yeah, last year I didn't make it into the hotel, so we did have to kind of find a place nearby, and the traffic isn't really that bad. It does get pretty full, so you would need to leave a little bit ahead of time. But there's a place to park, and then they shuttle everyone in. I'm not familiar with the area enough to give any specifics on those details. Hopefully, it'll be similar to last year, but I will say this: next week we are going to have the FPEA president herself on our podcast, so we can drill her on all of those details and get all of the good stuff. But if you haven't yet had a chance to register, I think it's a great idea to go ahead and do it. It's a wonderful convention, and it's packed. It's very, very packed. So, yeah, if you haven't gotten in yet, you should definitely give it a try.
They did
Crystal,
book rooms at Rosen, I know, just so you know.
what is that disembodied voice I hear? Okay. Crystal, is there anything that you wanted to hit before we dive into with our special guest?
Um, I don't think so.
Okay. Let me hide a bunch of my stuff on screen because I have to move now to this. Here we go. Hello, Kim Hannon.
Hello.
Thank you for being with us. How are you
Thanks for
today?
having me. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So last
It's a
year,
Monday in May.
yeah, yeah, it's a Monday in May. Hey, was the fourth with you? Did you do anything special for the fourth?
Um, Not for the fourth necessarily, just lots of graduation, Sweet 16, play rehearsal, baseball tournament kind of things.
No.
So yeah, busy.
Yeah. Brenda, did you
Does
do
your
anything
group do
special for the
does your
fourth?
group do a graduation?
We do actually, we do kind of a family party, but we do have an exciting announcement coming soon about some plans for future.
No.
All right. Well, Kim, you're using a lot of pronouns like we. Uh, Tell us a bit more about you and what the pronouns stand for.
So, depending on the situation, so I am Kim Hannon. I am the founder and president of Salt of Trinity, which is a homeschool group local in the Tampa Bay area.
Very cool.
And we also is the TBHC group, which is the founder of the Tampa Bay Homeschool Conference, of which I am also the president and founder.
And
like
last year was your first, correct?
Last year was the inaugural event
inaugural.
for the Tampa Bay Homeschool Conference. It was pretty incredible to be a part of it from the beginning and to watch how God just moved through the planning of the event and the event itself. Tampa Bay is home to, if the numbers are still accurate, if you look at our tri-county area and then kind of add in the outlier counties, there are more homeschoolers in this part of the state than anywhere else combined. So it was really cool to be able to see us as a community to be able to come together. Our expectation of the number of attendees was almost doubled in our first year of what the original plan was. So that was pretty cool to be a part of that.
That's very
and to have
cool.
you guys there for it.
Yeah, we were there. It was excellent. It was a great event. And so your event takes place in July.
Yes.
And
July
how do
20th this year.
The 20th this year. And how do you decide that date? Does that fall on a particular day or a week, or what is it that makes you pick that day?
Because partly because it is the time frame in which my team has the mental capacity to be able to handle an event, to be completely honest.
That's
and
important.
it also is a really good time of year for people. It gives them a chance, if they're going to want to go to FPA, to go to that and experience that and get all of the information they can get there. Their convention that they have is incredible. Just the resources that are available for people to be able to connect. And then it gives them time to kind of process through what they learned there and what they got there, coming into the time of year where they really need to buckle down and make a decision. And we're kind of just part of that process and helping them at that time of year really decide and kind of hone in on what exactly that new year is going to look like for them as a family.
So there's a lot of conferences and homeschooling festivals, and co-ops get together a lot, and they'll impromptu meetings. What made you want to start the homeschool conference? Something bigger than a local meeting that's larger, and like, walk us through. What's the brainstorming? What's the vision? Where did that come from?
I mean, it was something that actually my husband had on his heart like 5 years ago and kept poking, and I just didn't feel at the time that I had the capacity to be able to do something so large. And then something shifted and I just felt like it needed to happen, mostly just because of the numbers that we do have here. And there are so many incredible resources for parents in this area. But I found that anytime I would talk to someone who is newer in homeschooling, or even someone who's been around for a long time, they didn't know that connection wasn't there. They didn't have that collaboration happening. So it just felt right that we would take the focus out of the state and just look at our local community and say, hey, like, here are the things that we have right here in our own hometowns that can support you, whether you're looking at needing therapy for a child with special needs, or needing support because you have to write a transcript and you have no idea what to do, or you have a preschooler and you want to start out right. What does that look like? Or you need a group for your super social kid. All of those things can be found together in one space. And a big part of it was you guys and what you do with HEF and wanting to give you a platform to connect in with homeschoolers in a place where you're making a huge impact. So just being able to have an event that is supporting you financially and also giving you a platform to be able to share with the homeschoolers in our area what you're doing and why what you're doing is so important.
Well, I want to definitely say thank you. We had it's a huge benefit what you're doing. And it's something that, Brenda has been for the last 40 years working relentlessly and tirelessly. And, Crystal and I are taking the torch and walking forward, but she's been walking this journey since the beginning. And because of her, the journey had a beginning, which is wonderful. But we recently went to an event and there were about 1,000 people there, and I was just blown away by the fact that less than 10 people knew who Brenda was. Like less than 10 people knew who the Home Education Foundation was. And, not to throw shade on the event or the people at the event, but, we talked, we were there all day, and very little in terms of families that wanted to come in and support. Lots of verbal support, like, oh yeah, hey, thank you. Oh, we're so thankful for what you do. Like, oh, this is so important. And then on the end where it really matters, crickets. So I definitely want to say thank you to you for that, because you've taken your event to a level of helpfulness and support for what the work that we do that is almost unparalleled.
Not
And
almost, it is unparalleled. Give yourself the credit where it's due. I mean, I tell people all of the time, like, one of our biggest pushes when we do our event in our marketing is when you see Brenda, say thank you. Because you owe her at least that. Every single one of us that's homeschooling now is homeschooling because of the work that you've done. I mean, you created this, and there have been a few times in the last few years where if you're not paying attention, you don't notice. But there could have been some very traumatic things happen to homeschooling in Florida if Brenda and you guys did not step in and have the relationships that you do and be able to, the wisdom that God has given you and the connections that are there. It's one of those things where my generation, I grew up only knowing homeschool as a legal thing, that of course you can homeschool your kid, you have a right to, but that wasn't always the case. Like, that freedom wasn't always there. So in not having to fight for it, it's very easy to take it for granted. But it's so important that we don't, because when we stop taking, when we do take it for granted, that is when we lose it. And
Absolutely.
so we want to make sure that we're, locking arms with you guys in the fight to make sure that we all continue to be able to educate our kids in the best way we see fit, whether it's sending them to public school, if that's what your family needs to do, or utilizing one of the scholarships to go to private school or the PEP or traditional homeschooling. Every single one of those families is choosing what's best for their children. And at the end of the day, that's what you guys are really fighting for. You're fighting for the parents' right to direct their kids' education, not just a traditional homeschooler, but just that freedom is the platform that we all stand on.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to say Kim is one of the big reasons that we have Crystal and Jason, because I don't know when our conversations began last year, but I was saying that we didn't have the support to bring anybody on, and I really felt like my time here has come to an end and we needed somebody to replace me. And Kim and several of the leaders in the Tampa Bay area said, well, you need more marketing, you need to get out there, and you need a new website, and on and on. And they said, we'll raise the money to do that. And I was like, okay, how much money? And it was their initiative that really got us to Jason, who is the marketer, and they followed through with their commitment. That's, to me, so exciting, because so many people say, well, we'll do so and so, and then it kind of fizzles out. But in the end, with the conference, they I'm not sure the final amount, but I think it was like $4,500 that they sent to HEF, and that helped us bring on Jason. And then, of course, we didn't know we were getting such a bonus with Crystal. We just thought we were going to get some marketing. But it's been a great team and such a great effort. And we're so grateful, Kim, for your vision and your interest in promoting HEF, because you're exactly right. I mean, we saw that this past session with a little line that went into the PEP. And it could have completely negated the scholarship money. And so it was a hard fought battle. And it was the relationships that we had that ended up winning in the end. Of course, we can't discount God making all those things happen.
Yeah.
Jason and I saw a day when we kept saying, well, we don't know what to do. Should we go to the Capitol? And well,
That
I don't
is
know.
crazy.
Should we go to the Capitol? And one day I said, we need to go to the Capitol. And it was like everybody
Yeah.
we hadn't been able to contact or make appointments with.
Like 3
were-
weeks out. No way to get an appointment. Yeah.
But God,
Yeah, but God. And here was one standing in the hall. You know, we just had to walk up and meet him. And somebody who was supposed to be at a committee meeting that got canceled or ended early and shows up at his office, invites us in. Very powerful person. And we spent 45 minutes talking to him about the pros and cons. I mean, it was just like orchestrated on that day.
And it's synchronized too. Like every time we would end with one, another one came around the corner, like it was choreographed, and it was blowing my mind.
Completely amazing. I mean, you know, and that's the kind of thing that you have to have somebody in the Capitol.
Yes.
You know, you can't be in Tampa and think that, oh, well, I'll go up for the committee meeting and speak. That was important, and we really needed those people. But being in the Capitol, walking the halls, being able to contact people that we had no idea we'd be able to get into was just God. And it was important that we have representatives there, because otherwise I'm not sure that would have happened.
It's the relationship that you have and the respect that you've built over time because of how you handle conflict and how you present information in a way that it's respectful, and you share the facts and people respond to that, you know.
It was really interesting because a lot of people knew Brenda, so they would then see it was that connection that they saw 10 feet away when they rounded a corner. And then they would let the people they were talking to go and come to us, and we got like 10 minutes with them, right? And then we would get it was choreographed, like it was just one after the other, very tightly woven. There was one lull in all of that, and Brenda goes, "Well, what do we do? What do we do now? Do we go here or do we do this?" And I just looked at her and I was like, you know, I just feel like God's opening doors, so why don't we go through doors that are already open? So we stepped back into one of the senator's offices, and he wasn't there, but his assistant was available. So we started chatting with her, and 5 minutes into chatting with her, he walks up and was like, "What are y'all doing here?" We're like, we wanted to talk to you. And he goes, "Well, come on in my office." I mean, it was unreal.
That's
awesome.
Just
unreal.
Yeah.
Absolutely unreal.
So what we need to do then is to make sure the rest of the state recognizes you like the people in Tallahassee recognize you, right?
Yeah. And it is a community effort. It's not just having a lobbyist in the Capitol. That's critical because it almost kind of appears to me that person's a coordinator for the communities that are all over Florida to gather their voices or to connect with a parent's testimony from this and a representative that they're connected to over there, and kind of put the strings together and make those connections and give them weight, and call them at the moments where the iron is hot and needs to be struck, right? There's that feeling it out kind of thing. And I think as we've built the forum and the website and the Facebook page and the podcast that we're doing, it makes it a little bit easier. And back to what Brenda said earlier, you know, Kim, you were a big reason why we got that initial start, because it was like, okay, cool. We have an initial kickoff to build all of this, to get it rolling, to kind of launch from. And that helped us put the website and the fundraising, the ongoing fundraising into place, and all the other pieces. And so thank you for being a part of our journey. But I want to give you more time to talk about your event. Because it's not just about us. Today is a lot of it is about you.
Well, a big part of who we are is about you, so it's kind of funny, but okay.
It's symbiotic then.
Yeah.
From last
Because
year's
usually when I go
inaugural-
on other podcasts or channels to talk about the conference, 90% of what we talk about is you guys. So,
oh, that's awesome.
Well, thank you.
yeah.
Thank you for that. Yeah. What from last year's inaugural conference? What did you have a single takeaway, like a big aha moment, or were there any just smaller lessons learned that you were like, okay, this is really important? Were there any of those, big or small, that you want to share?
I think the big aha moment was just how needed an event like that was in our area. The response we got comes only from a need that's being met. We had our info table was set up so for people to come and ask questions about the event. How do I find this vendor? How do I get this information?
Mm-hmm.
And afterwards, and talking to all my volunteers who worked at that booth that day, they said they felt like they were therapists more than anything because they were just there were moms that were scared, right? And
Yeah.
they were helping them not be scared anymore.
So you had new people.
There was a very large number of new people, but I think if you look at homeschooling across the board anyway, there's a lot of new homeschoolers coming in. There's people pulling out their kids from school. One thing I heard more than anything last year was, I don't know if I want to homeschool, but I don't know what else to do. Helping to direct them into, I mean, as a parent, I think there's like a level of healthy fear, right, in raising your children and wanting to do it right, but not living in that fear, fear. So being able to provide a place where parents were able to make the connections they needed so they don't have to live in that fear was, I think, the biggest aha takeaway moment. Another really cool thing that in looking at our feedback from the event last year, when I look back on our speakers that we had, the speakers that had the best feedback and had the most people connected directly with them were other homeschool moms who are just further up the road than them. And just looking at that Titus 2 principle from the Bible of like older women pouring into younger women, it was just really cool to recognize that having the professional speakers is amazing. We have a couple coming this year. We're super excited. Ashley Wiggers is going to be there. Brenda, I know you knew her mom. We have Michelle Brownell who's coming. Mr. D from Dennis Denoya from Mr. D Math, who is basically famous in the homeschool world.
Yeah.
But for us, it's super cool because he's from Tampa. Like that's where he got his start was in the Tampa area. So to have him come and speak, and having them there is amazing. And we're so blessed to have their talent and their passion. But there's something to be said about the homeschool mom who has been homeschooling your kids for 12 years, sharing the things that have worked for her and her family with the new mom, or someone like Sue, Sue and Dina are both on the HEF, work with you guys, and they both have so much to share, and they're both speakers this year as well. So it's just being able to provide a platform for people who have passion and who have valuable information to share.
That's fantastic. That's really interesting. Sorry, go ahead, Brenda.
I was just going to say, I think one of the big fears that people have, at least this is the thing that I've heard over the years, is, well, my kid's not going to get a diploma. How's he going to get into college? What's next? And so moms that have already walked that journey and have great success with colleges and universities, and say, this is how you do it. It's not that frightening, and you can do it. It's going to work. Your kids will be successful. I think that's important in the experience realm that you're talking about.
Absolutely. And it's the connections too. I know I keep coming back to that, but I've talked to people who they're like, it's now, almost a full year later, and I'm just making a connection back again with someone that I met at the conference, because there's these full circles that are happening because we're all in this area. Like we really try to make sure that we're connecting with the people who are living here in Tampa. So it truly can be a community collaboration for the people that are in this area. I've had people ask, if I'm not in the Tampa area, is it beneficial? Absolutely, because there's information that no matter where you live, our speakers are going to be able to share something with you. A ton of curriculum vendors that you don't need to live in a certain area to be able to read their book. But if you're like the greatest benefit comes in those connections that are happening that aren't just that day, but can move on with you throughout your kid's educational career.
I'm excited that there is an event like this in the Tampa area now, because I'm from Tampa. I grew up in Tampa. We just moved up to Tallahassee, obviously, a few months ago. So I love that there is something there now in Tampa for the homeschool community there. And I'm excited about being at your event in July because it's like a reunion for me. I'm going to be seeing a lot of friends, that I've worked with in the homeschooling arena in the past, a lot of fellow homeschool moms that I'm friends with. So thank you for doing this for the Tampa Bay area. I think it's just a really, really rich resource for all the families in that area.
Absolutely. We're happy to do it.
Did you know that Hillsborough County has the largest collection of homeschooling students as a school district in the country?
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's absolutely wild.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping that your event just blows up, to be honest with you. It's fantastic.
Yeah, well, we, as of right now, our speaking lineup is set. So that's going to be published pretty soon. My marketing team is working on making it all, acceptable for social media and the website.
Right.
And as of last week, we are sold out for vendors and sponsors. We are at full capacity for the event. There is literally not another space for a booth to put.
Wow. It's exciting.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, we're pretty excited.
Well, along that line, what are some of the things that attendees can look forward to with your event this year?
So many things. We have the opportunity to connect with you guys and be able to, just hear you speak on what's happening in Tallahassee and any updates, which is super important. We look at inspiring and empowering and educating, right? So all of those things. The keynotes are great. Our breakout sessions, there's literally something for everyone, whether you're brand new with a little kid or you're brand new because you're pulling your kid out of school or you're about to start high school or you're graduating your kids and sending them off and wondering what does that look like, launching them well. If you're looking for curriculum, resources for students with special needs, all of the things. We even actually have a whole separate lineup specifically for teenagers. So we really do encourage this to be a family event where you're bringing along your teenagers. And of course, we're talking about homeschoolers. So that could be also 10, 11, 12-year-olds, and they can sit and be able to, pick up what's going on. But we have a whole lineup just for them so that they have their own resources, people that are speaking directly to them at their level and sharing information with them and looking at alternatives. So we have dual enrollment, conversations about dual enrollment, conversations about AP classes, conversations with resources like AM Skills and what that can look like in the tech field. They're going to be there to be able to share what they're doing with something outside of college, right? That next step that doesn't necessarily have to be
post K-12 path. Yeah,
exactly. So there really is something for everybody. So I hear
that you have something special planned for people this week.
So homeschoolers being homeschoolers, and I'm one of them, so I'm allowed to say it. We are quite notorious for being procrastinators and waiting to the last minute for all the things. So I know there are several people that connected that were there last year that missed out on our early bird special. So the early bird is the cheapest you're going to get for the year, and it's over. And some people were pretty bummed that they forgot to buy their tickets. So what we are going to do is just starting now through the next 48 hours. So it's good through 12 p.m. on the 8th. If you use the code HEF 2024, you will get $10 off your registration.
Very good. Let me edit. I
Make
put
sure
a comment
you do
in.
that.
Yeah, expires. You said May
8th, May 8th at noon.
8th.
Yep.
All right. Okay, cool.
So,
I have put that up. And here's what the page looks like if you want to take a look at it. This is the page, so you can get it. You can go in, set it up, use it. It's fantastic. Thank you, Kim, for doing that.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that a lot. That's a very special
we want people to be able to take advantage of this opportunity and to make these connections. So whatever we can do to help make that happen.
Well, if you know someone, if you're watching this, whether we're live now or else, and you know someone who needs or wants that code, or they've been talking about it, or they haven't heard about the conference, you can easily share it with them. And now, I guess, is that last moment to slip in and get a little bit off using that code. So it does expire. Ooh, I like it.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else, any message or anything that you want to say that you want to leave us with as we wrap up this part of the conversation? I have some other stuff that we'll get to. Some of the things we've talked about transitions into it, but before we do that, I just want to give you one more last thing. I know you said you also had to go, I think.
I do have to go. Yeah.
I want to be respectful of your time.
Meeting Monday, we'll call it today. Yeah. No, I really just thank you guys for the work that you do. I feel like that's been our conversation back and forth, right? What you're doing allows us to do what we're doing, you know, and vice versa. So it's just really cool to be able to provide a space where you can get the credit that you deserve and you can get the platform that you need to be able to connect with families. And we're just super excited about some really big things that we have coming through TBHC, not just the conference, but other events and services. And there's just lots of big things coming in the homeschool world in Florida. So nice. It's a really exciting time to be a homeschooler in Florida, thanks to the work that you're doing. Sure. So I hope to meet you guys at whoever's out there, you know, July 20th in Trinity. Come on in. Coffee shop is the best coffee around. Come on and grab a cup of coffee and let's do it.
Last year you had food vendors there. You're going to have the trucks again?
Oh, we sure will. You come in the morning and there's no reason to leave until we close. We'll have food vendors, coffee will be going all day. All the things that you could possibly need. There's a playground and a splash pad on site for the kids. Trail Life is going to be there as our diamond sponsor. So they'll have an adventure zone set up with all kinds of fun things for the kids. Kimberly with the Homeschool Hive is another one of our main sponsors.
Yay. So, she's one of our sponsors too. Yay.
Yeah, we love the Homeschool Hive and Kimberly. Yeah. So all the things that you need, you'll be able to get.
Very cool.
Yeah. So
it sounds exciting. It sounds like there's a lot.
It is. Lots.
A lot. I know that the Joy FM was there last year too.
They were. They're not going to be there this year.
They're going to be there this year? Oh, yeah, they should be giving you some free shout outs.
Yeah. Hear that, Joy FM? I agree. I think they should.
They really should. Yeah. Get on it. What, do you not love us? What's the matter?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being with us today. We really appreciate it. We won't take any more of your time.
No, thank you guys for having me. It's a pleasure as always. All right. Take care.
See you.
Bye. Bye.
All right. Let me get us back over to, not share. This one. Yeah. My head is in the correct spot, but while I do that, it was really interesting as we were talking to her, talking about how there are so many new people coming into home education, and they're looking for answers and resources. That has definitely been stuff that we've also seen. And I know that I recently saw an article, I think on the Business Insider, and it was talking about how this public school teacher of 20 years decided to start homeschooling after the pandemic. And it just kind of goes through, I mean, it felt like it was written by ChatGPT or something. with some stock photo, but it started going through all the reasons why homeschooling is so great, and then they're the reasons that all of the traditional homeschooling families know and love, but it almost was like there are these like, oh, hey, now the education experts are finding the value in home education too, and look how good it's going to be for everybody. And it it plays into the issue that we ran into in the Capitol, which is that a lot of the times the mental thought is, public school at home. And a lot of people kind of coming out or pulling out of public school because they don't like this or that, or they just want more freedom. Like, one of the things the article wrote about was that you could do more on the go, and you're not locked into this place to do all of this and then have a certain amount of time afterwards to try to fit everything in. Like, you can now move about and take your studies with you, and that's beautiful. That's great. I think, actually, wasn't it Senator Burgess who said that that's what they do with their RV? I believe it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there is a transition, though. There's like a transitional period, and it makes me a little concerned because the popularity of home education has grown, like doubled, and then almost doubled again over the last 4 years, which is huge. But people who aren't traditionally from the background of home education, so there's an adjustment period that they have to go through, which is home education is not public schooling at home. Like, homeschooling isn't public school at home. And it makes me think about the us making it to the second rounds for the grant that we're working on. That's a big part of one of the things that we've gone after the grant for, to help us talk about, is all the different ways that people home educate, and then they home educate their children with special needs, and they use a scholarship, and then they home educate their children with the PEP scholarship because their family has needs that the scholarship helps with, and what that looks like across the board, and how it varies, how it can be wildly different from one family to another, and how they meet unique challenges and solve those challenges, and to try to make that normal. Right, to be honest with you, because the less that we look at homeschooling as a branch of public school at home, and more like what it is, which is that wild frontier, where the world is your classroom, truly, truly is. Look at our website. That's why we do it. The world is our classroom. It's literally why we put it there. It's important to make that shift. If you haven't been to our website recently, and when you get there, you'll see that it's been redesigned, and the Tell Your Story has been added to the menu. So you'll see where, about HEF and HEF Connect, how we now have two entities. You'll see that's drawn out. You'll see areas to support us. You'll see the recognition wall for all of our vendor tier supporters who get that. And you'll see our top sponsors. There's an area for those as well. And you'll see that part that we recently added called Tell Your Story. And this is a project that we're working on right now, where parents and students from across the state of Florida can make a 60-second video, like video of you walking a trail and looking at whatever you're doing for science, or your kids outside like digging a hole because that's what they're doing with their science, or they're building something with their math skills, and then flying that plane or that drone or whatever it is that your children are into, and how you go about pouring their education into them. Take 60 seconds and talk about to you why it's important to have those freedoms, what you do with them, and the impact that that's had. And drop that video into our basically, it's a drive folder that you can just upload it right to. There's links right on the web, on that web page, and that's going to really, really help us collect a bunch of those testimonies and get them out there. And we're very excited. We went ahead and started this project even though we didn't get the grant, because whether we get the grant and we're able to pull it off in a shorter amount of time with the help, or it takes us a couple more years to fully flesh it out, it's a great idea that is going to really help us in the long run. it's something that we're committed to regardless. But anyway, Crystal, you had some things before that you wanted to talk about that were along that line.
Yeah, sort of. And just to clarify, the decision for the grant hasn't been made yet.
No. Yeah.
But, Jason just wanted to go ahead and launch this because, like he said, even if we don't get the grant, it's an important thing that we want to do. But keep us in your thoughts and prayers because we are moving into phase 2 of the grant application, and we're working on everything we need to submit for that. So, yeah. So the opportunist thing, that's what you're referring to, Jason, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you had a different angle on it, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So, similar to how Jason was saying that there are now just so many new people coming into home education, and a lot of them are not as experienced perhaps with home education, but they're coming in and presenting themselves as experts on home education because there's just so much enthusiasm, and that's great. That they've found something that works for them and they're wanting to share it, and that's great.
Right. That is great.
The one angle that I just wanted to make parents aware of, because I've encountered it and I've seen it even popping up in my Facebook feed because they're running ads for it. I won't.
Don't name. Okay.
There are people who, especially because of the scholarships, and they're seeing the massive opportunity to make money off of homeschoolers. I would just like to caution people to be careful where you get your information, because there are companies now that are presenting themselves as though they are resources for homeschooling families, and they are giving false information, and in some cases they are trying to sell you services that are actually against policies at the scholarship funding organizations, against step-up policies, against the statutes for how the money can be used and handled. But they are coming in and presenting themselves as though...
Can you elaborate a little bit on what you mean by that without saying names and doing things?
Sure.
Okay.
There are some companies that are basically offering to handle the scholarship for you. So if you've been using PEP this year, you've probably encountered some difficulties and headaches with the reimbursement process, and it can be a lot of work to gather all your information and submit for reimbursements, and sometimes it gets kicked back and you have to do it again, and to keep track of all of this stuff and make sure you're submitting and which ones have been reimbursed and which ones haven't. So there are companies now that are rising up, offering the service to parents of doing all of that for you. They will apply for the scholarship for you. They will handle all the paperwork for you, and you just get your money. And essentially what they're doing is they're working a loophole, for a perceived loophole. It's actually not, it's illegal. They're working a perceived loophole in the system where they can basically either pretend to be you, they can log in as you, which is illegal, or they can have you create an account and then basically bill them as a provider as though it's tuition or something, and it gets paid to them, and then they hold that money like in an account for you and distribute it. You then use them almost as your scholarship funding organization to theoretically avoid the paperwork of everything that you would have to do for the actual scholarship funding organization.
Yeah, so be careful of those.
So just be careful if you see something like that, because if you actually apply for a scholarship through Step Up, there is an affidavit you have to sign. And one of the things on the affidavit, and this is also in the parent handbooks, that this is not allowed, but it is not okay for you to give someone else access to your scholarship account, and you risk losing your scholarship and possibly even action beyond that if you do something like that. However, if you never read the handbook and you never saw the affidavit because you just took this company's word for it and trusted them to create your account for you, that's the situation that I'm wanting to avoid with parents. So I just wanted to put that warning out there. Yeah. Please read all the things. Read the handbook, read the statutes. If you have questions, we have a lot of information on our forum and our blog. You can reach out to us if you're not sure about something.
Absolutely. Use us as a resource.
Yeah, use us as a resource if you have questions. And please be careful where you get your information. Don't just trust anybody, because there are some people who are coming in, unfortunately, to the homeschool community as opportunists, whether from within the community or from outside. And maybe it's well-meaning. Maybe they didn't do their research and they don't realize they're not allowed to do that.
Yeah,
but
it's not always nefarious.
Please just be informed and be aware so that you don't get stuck in something like that.
I want to echo on top of that, because I think what you're saying is very, very important, but also that just because you can do it initially or get it passed through a system doesn't mean that it was right and good. And it also doesn't mean that the hammer isn't coming down. It just hasn't fallen yet. So a lot of times with with things that are financially illegal, there needs to be enough information and enough patterns and enough time to establish it, and then the hammer falls. So just because initially it might work, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to continue to work, or that you will be on this side of prison bars when it all settles. So
or even just lose the scholarship, and that would be sad to lose that opportunity for your family because you weren't aware.
If you just lost the scholarship, you'd be in good
I'm
shape.
just saying, even that would be sad. I don't want a family to have
it would be sad, but the real risks here are not slight. So when you are dealing with all of this, be mindful that if you have questions, a lot of the times we're building connections and we're networking with people, and we are talking to a lot of people who are involved at different tiers within organizations, or with that community leader or this community leader or that program leader. And there's a lot of information that we get that comes across us. And there are times if you're looking for help, or you want to know, does this seem right? Does this not? You need some steering, like leverage the information that's either on our forum. If you don't find it, message us directly, and we can, if we don't know the answer, there's a great chance we know the people who do, and we can help you hunt it down. So,
I just wanted to bring that up today because, like I said, I'm seeing them actually run ads for them on Facebook now. They're trying to reach more and more people. So
yes,
please just be aware.
I'm seeing them as well. Yeah.
Another thing that I think parents need to be aware of is, and it's going back to what you said earlier about what does home education look like? What I've found over the years is that parents will push sometimes, and it could be financially, it could be because they really believe it, but they push their way of home education as being the right way to do it. And most of the time, it's, as you said, Jason, bringing public school home. And so I found over years of experience, it really takes 3 years before parents figure out home education. The first year they bring public school home, everybody sits at a desk, they do all the problems in the book, they do it from 8 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. And many times they burn out. The next year, if they manage to hang in there, they go, well, I know my kid knows this math concept and they're getting all the answers right. We don't have to do every problem in the book because we bought the curriculum. Right. The third year, they go, geez, I know how to do that. Our purpose is not to kill the kids' curiosity.
That's right.
To teach them the basic facts, how to read, how to write, how to do math. And then we're going to follow the child's curiosity and what they're interested, what their bent is, and give them the freedom to develop what God's put in them as their gifts. And so, then we become doing the world as our classroom. We're really homeschoolers. But don't let somebody else steal your freedom. Yeah. And that is so concerning to me because I have parents who have been indoctrinated by the homeschool community as this is the way you do it. And if you don't do it this way, you're going to fail your child, or you're going to get, hauled into court for not doing enough. And Florida is an attendance state.
Mm-hmm.
There's no requirements. If you'll read the home education law, there's no requirements for what courses you have to take.
Mm-hmm.
There are no requirements for how many hours you have to teach per day.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have an evaluation at the end of the year, and that evaluation shows educational progress commensurate with that child's ability.
Mm-hmm.
So your child's ability at third grade may not be whatever other third graders are doing, but it may be way advanced above other third graders what
Yeah.
they're learning. So be careful that you don't impose on other people the right way to home educate. And that to me is something that is hard to convey to people because of
Mm-hmm.
fear, but also it's important because legislators are locked into that mentality.
Yes.
And they compare public school and home education and they think it's the same, and it's
Right.
not.
Correct.
And so one of the purposes of the project of Tell Your Story is
Mm-hmm.
for us to be able to help legislators get a real view of what home education is.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important for you to share.
Yes.
Growing, in the early years of doing this, DOE was always very much in support of home education, even though we all feared, the Department of Education. But some of the things that came out of that were very interesting to me, because one of the first person who was in that position of overseeing home ed at the end of the year, he said to a group of people that were enforcement officers with the state, he goes, I don't worry about who's in home education. He said it's kind of self-regulating. The parents who are really committed to educate their children are going to last. And those people who are not really into educating their children, they're not going to stay in it. And so, it isn't something that we worry about because it does kind of regulate itself. And then other ones of them said, I don't really understand home education. Can you maybe do a field trip for me so I can see the way parents' home education? So I spent the entire day going from people who agreed for her to come. And we started off with the real traditional, where they sat down with their kids and they had the workbooks and they did the whole public school at home. And then we transitioned through the day to, I think we went to 5 different homes. And the person said, wow, what an education. I mean, now I understand what these parents are doing. So don't be afraid to invite your legislators, even their aides, to your home or to your group to see what you're doing, because education makes all the difference in the world.
It does. And then I'll pivot off of that to say, and if you don't want to invite them in, put your story together and send it in to us so we can put it on our story wall as we put it up. And these, as a secondary benefit that we're hoping comes out of this, is that when these are seen and recognized, the more normalized they're treated, the more options it opens up for students. And that's really the goal. Is to preserve the curiosity and to preserve the thirst for knowledge and normalize the many paths that are used to access it and to instill it into their minds. All right. I think that wraps up today's podcast. Brenda, thank you. I'm so glad you didn't miss today. When you texted me, I was like, well, we could do it without you, but I don't want to. You always add some deep historical element to it that I am like, wow, yes, I didn't even know about that early Department of Education thing that you shared, and it's so enriching. So I'm thankful that you're with us. Crystal, thank you for everything that you spoke about. Kim, I see you hanging out in the comments. Thank you for being with us today as well, and everything that you shared about TBHC. Brenda, is there anything that you want to say before we go?
Nope. Just
Okay.
we're looking forward to the summer and people getting more connections and more information and meeting people at these conferences and
Yes.
spreading
Absolutely.
the words.
Yeah, and if you want to do one of your testimonies at one of the conventions or conferences, I'll bring my microphone and stuff, and you can have at it right there. So,
Oh, that'd
Chris,
be great.
yeah, Crystal, what about you? Anything you want to say before we wrap up?
No, not really.
Okay, cool. All right, well then I will do this one more time, just like we begin our stream with our top sponsors. We'll end our stream with our top sponsors. I want to thank you again to FPEA. Their convention is coming up at the end of this month. If you haven't secured a spot yet, you should do it. We want to thank them for being our top sponsor, being with us. Outside of that, thank you all for being with us. Thank you all, Brevard School, Homeschool Evaluations, Juniper, thank you. Miranda, thank you for being with us. Katie Lane, thank you for being with us. I love seeing the comments. Sometimes I don't respond to all of them, but we see them and we see you, and we thank you for being with us. Make sure to share and help us get the word out. And you all have a wonderful rest of your Monday.